Marisha Mamuna, Jabrason, Sakasia, and Sa Akamia de Ebremo, and Sema Edimo Akutino Ebi Edie.
Omampania to form your Babesi Machine Tooling Center, what the best purpose, war and crime.
Also, for Shaman, the Bohun Semso, HS, and Sema Udua Akosua, Fagana, and Aviation Nigeria, before and Temple, say, as you give a Juma.
And people Manokon in Sembia Pia say NDC for market now manifesto won't be farmer Bontino. And then you say, what person was share NPP for no senior one.
Now, Aviation Minister Urakufi Ada H. Musa Enya Dia Kutuka International Airport, no more airton. Ye
call a man on in Semua. What the South Africa man penny, but Jinam penny for be animal be son and some FSC Casembia once year.
Ebatwasna ya call Uganda and Kano Chips COVID-19 test fee no and also what they about a musem at the Bebremo.
We and in Sembin Yakaboman you may a de Bremo Secasi about UTV so Yanya Moti and Kenya Adwoa Yeboah Adjei and
Kona and Chibusia.
A fake as a bonmoon semono any. Why ya mania mamma penny na adudanko kufa do 2 for more. Wababesi baby obey and at the draw and nasa spare pass, war and crime. Or find a Foundry and Machine Tooling Center. Now, yes, as spare pass, Edia Boasen a beya, a buying for the Juma who don't bet me any Niama, any Akandia Eddie Ayajuma. Natitu ya Ghana Atomic Energy Commission for and warrior de Asumo. A bra watch you mono. Was see what the best abosumen kono the basis Sabiano every.
I have been advocating for a Ghana beyond aid, which represents the vision of achieving a prosperous, self-reliant Ghana that is in charge of her economic destiny, and a transformed Ghana that is able to engage competitively with the rest of the world through trade and investment and not aid. To achieve this objective requires the structural transformation of the Ghanaian economy. That is why since I came to office in 2017, government has decided to pursue the strategy of adding value to our resources through an accelerated industrialization strategy that exploits the resources of our nation. You can understand my excitement at being present here today for the commencement of the process to establish the first modern foundry and machine tooling center in the country. These facilities and associated workshops will be equipped with tools and machinery to provide agro-processing machines and equipment, farming implements, and spare parts for maintenance and repairs. The facilities of this center will provide technical support for policy initiatives of governments such as One District, One Factory, which is already in place in many districts across the country and is providing jobs for many of our youth. More importantly, the Foundry and Machine Tooling Center will put us in the position to develop and grow the talents of skilled and innovative young Ghanaians who graduate from our schools, colleges, and universities. The establishment of this center is a key component of a much broader strategic framework that is designed to ensure that Ghana's socio-economic development is driven by science, technology, and innovation, STI. I am confident that we will be able to bring into being new enterprises through the exploitation of science and technology opportunities. Also, new products and processes will be born out of these enterprises and jobs will be created. That is when we will appreciate the contribution of science and technology to our nation's GDP. Nime, ladies and gentlemen, government is ready to partner with all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to drive investment, attract technology, and ensure effective management of this foundry and machine tooling center enterprise and others that will be set up under our industrialization strategy.
Aviation Minister Orakofi Adai atudwa echim se enye no kreda so bani abre se obeso oton eye Kutuka International Airport na emum no de omo yenya ne so betimi abose de be ya on betimi enya eye dwumako ahodo bi no beka bo mu na timi aboa na watimi abie airport ni mu na timi afanipa bibire so adwuma ewo ho.
We're very concerned about aviation because of the vision of His Excellency the President. You recall that during the tenure of President Kufuor, we set up a dedicated sector ministry for aviation. When MPP lost power and NDC came on board, they merged it back into the mainstream transport ministry. When MPP came back to power again, Nana Addo Dankwa decided to set up a dedicated ministry for aviation for a very good reason. The reason simply is that there's great potential in the aviation sector to help the development of this nation, and that's why we set it up. And that's been done in associated vision of ensuring that we become the hub of aviation in the West African sub-region. Why? It is so because we can create jobs with this sector, we can develop businesses in this sector, we can transform the nation, especially when we set up airport cities within the context of a smart city development agenda. Now, if we do this simply to get jobs for people, to transform the development arrangement of the country, why would we want to sell the airports? Why would we want to privatize the airport? Why would we want to resort to management contracts? So I want to make it very clear to the media and to the general public that under the tenure of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, there's not going to be any sale of any airport infrastructure or the Kotoka International Airport whatsoever. We are not selling the airport, we are not privatizing the airport. Indeed, we do not even have a management contract for any company to come and take over the management of the airport. That's not going to happen in the rest. What we're working on is to ensure that we expand the infrastructure, to create more opportunities for Ghanaians. Now, the constraint we have is that we have to service a big debt for this terminal building. Minister of Finance cannot shoulder the burden of keep giving us more money every time to develop infrastructure because they've got roads, health, education to deal with. Therefore, we have to look at partnerships. Why are we looking at partnerships? We need to have what we call aviation training organization. In the West and Central African region of the continent of Africa, we do not have any pilot training facility within West and Central Africa. We do not have what we call the maintenance repair organization, which is the training of technicians and engineers to service aircraft. We do not have dedicated fixed-base terminal, meaning that we don't have a private jet terminal in Ghana. We are trying to set up one. We need a big cargo village. What we have here is relatively small. If you compare us with Ethiopia and other countries in Africa like Egypt, we need to have all those. We do not have the money to do that. We are anticipating going to partnership with all kinds of potential investors, Ghanaian or non-Ghanaians. That will be subjected to whatever national interest that we put ahead of anything else. And in that negotiation, we will not sell the airport, we will not privatize the airport, we're not going to have any management contract. So I want to make that very, very clear, that we are not selling the airport, we're not privatizing the airport. We want to create more jobs, more infrastructure, expansion of the airports in Tamale, in Kumasi, and completing the rehabilitation of Sunyani. We need more jobs. So we need more people, especially those working in the aviation sector now, will be the ones to go there and take up more senior level positions.
Wayense ntwefo nhia mu afaremhye gina bia eye Kotoka International Airport a ochena wo bie ano no ho akyerɛkyerɛ nhyehyɛ yahodo a aban ede ato ho na bra obo odwa no ɔsoɔfo a ɔhwɛ pomodin sam so na bedi akyerɛ owura Bernard Okoboy ene edi animu kasaye saa nso so na Ghana Health Service Dr. Penny Odano eye Dr. Patrick Boaje nso kasaye ensema odi tu dwa bie no ne sɛ pɔsɛ nyani bia fiama no ne bepiem wɔ Ghana agye so otua dollar no ɔha aduonum $150 Mohammed yes our test ni bi ma no na se kwaba so wo sa yare ni bia ye na ma doctor for ma o ma hwe no.
Before this reopening, we had evacuation special flights coming to Ghana. Any passenger who got on board actually paid for 2 weeks of hotel bills before coming to Ghana. And if you are paying an average of, let's say, even $70 a night, you have to multiply $70 by 14 days. The cost far overwhelms what you charge for, the test we are doing right now. Secondly, if we should keep you here for 6 hours, for the other test regimes that take 6 hours, it will pose a risk of congestion at the airport, which in itself will serve as an incubation chamber for possibly a sharing of the virus amongst passengers. So the factors tell us that it is actually proper or prudent to go with this regime. Thirdly, remember that when Ghana first quarantined travelers in this country and we picked over 100 and so cases, we actually tested them twice. And each PCR test we did cost an average $70 to $100. So Ghana spent close to $200 on one person to make sure that the virus is not brought to Ghanaians. And so for the passenger to pay $150, which is less than what we paid, and we fed them as well, I think it is a very good bargaining. If you want to come to Ghana, we as a government are interested in you coming, but we don't want you to come here with the virus. And by the way, nothing is more expensive than getting a virus.
Rules will be one mandatory face mask by all persons accessing the Kotoka International Airport, including the car parks, among other places. Enforcement of the social distancing protocols, and lastly, the mandatory hand hygiene, as using alcohol-based sanitizers to be able to wash your hands. For arriving passengers, as has been mentioned, you need to come in with a negative PCR test taken at most 72 hours before you travel into the country. Ghanaians who travel for a meeting that returns in less than a week or within a week will be exempted from having to come in with a negative PCR testing. That's very important for people to know. There's also a digitized health declaration form that people can fill. You can even complete that before you arrive. That will tell us whether your risk level, are you sick, have you had any situation, where have you traveled to, so that allow the health to be able to properly assess the risk that you are carrying in addition to your negative PCR test. The mandatory COVID-19 test on arrival, has been mentioned, will be done. And by the time you go through and get down to the Port Health before you go to immigration, your results will be there for them to be able to access you to allow in. Children under 5 will not be tested because the risk is low and all the inconvenience that goes with it. Air crew will also not be subjected to the mandatory testing at the airport here, but they will have to follow their own protocols as far as the airline testing is concerned.
And rather, Wabra Yampeni and Ghana for Ekasai no, what the Etsu Ija Echesame Eyaduma October Nimo and junior high school and senior high school second year for no, one Ebeku school, Jina so Emma Uduyan for a duchum or no and oye or so for be the chair or Shem Messia and Semso and essential for Eddington Achichimu pa Edia Chewomo.
Yaraboni by a honshi say no, a dorsum. Nia uye and say. Utimi MS school no adan no edaho na school no mu daho ye papa enti wonko kan kyerɛ mo se bia moma enkwara aduonunum ene enko school no mu ansa na yare bebe na enkwara aduonum ene kɔ classroom sabro mempeni se moma enye 25 enti se wodi 50 na aba 25 eno kyerɛ se wo hia classroom bebrebe ansa na enkwala no etimi atena ho mo hwahen ha wo mo ama yare ho ahobambo broni be friends protocols no watimi edi so pepepe ense enu nti na osesa de JHS2 enti ofa JHS2 fo nko a obeko school ho na adan ho ni nyina no ekwan ada ho ba bia na nkora na ye 50 na sesem ye 30 enti uhia classroom dodo enti se okoka so mu nyina nkwa aho kire beba ahokyere no mu nso ene ede yare no nso eden eba enti no ade a oto no boase se be ya akora bia benya ba bia tena kama na se eduonu num ene se ko classroom bia eso me school num nyina da ho ansa na obi enya ba bia tena pepepe ti enu nti ena from 2 for nkwa ekwa
no man peni announce yes say SHS2 GHS2 for Mokono or Mobina free hot meal a day. A B we say Diane de mama friend and your balanced diet, vegetables and kahu, fruits and kahu. So what you say, how do you feel?
Oh Minia, I came in Kabi.
na no kwese dia enye balance
balance dudu
no kwese
meal bia no sabe wo fie kra yen menua yen krasefo wudi fufuo wi akwedi bofre enti sa balance na ye ka no yen ba bia na efredi ni balance o eno anse ni msame mame futo ni nkontomre no de aye momoni bi twim na eho no menya me vegetables na ade na kakra momoni na twim ame mu ayede na eno kra ye fish ya na no so ayeden abefem kakra na makwenya mi fufuo no so carbohydrate no so akum kakra na pesie bi banchi bi na media ene me carbohydrate no minua de tie ne se aduane ba ko enti edan aduane ba ko na ankasa no ebi a enye balance na eden ye pe no enu nti na da bia mutumi change mu kakra enti de wanya ne no ekina obeden ubenya obo ha ja mo ho to mo ntom dom to mfie ne balance no nko a na fruits no mu de en bebrebe wudi fufuo wie ni bofre wudi fufuo wie a yensan kutwitwa bofre emeka ho se wudi o enti omo aja mo nyom ba bi tie ne de omo balance ne balance no ebobra ya balance sa nyame aboa ya bedru bi edru
Amafo bin bo watiti enkuro wa Western North mantamu akambo mu dia de sade ato Ghana mampani nim se mo sere ne papa na no awodi amane atu dwase oba bebie kotoka wiem hyengina bia no na nko mo hwe kwan se border no so bebie na nso so wamie wo mo sese betimi a aban anwene ho fi se border wodo no aban akoso atotumu no ama adwadie ni akonia badie no aye den ama won
Ayan shane chenchene na mom so onim say yare na bia mu nsa metoa yan no bia na ye dia wo miema because ye ne amane bi wo ho ayenya bi nto ni nyina ya krabi biti se ko divoa money ade no nto wo miema ya na yan so ya dwadie no anya jojo ma ye
land borders still remain closed for air traffic. To me, I think it's almost the same because most of the goods also come from the land. It's almost like to me 50-50. And you'll be on business can flow as usual. The person from some land in the county. So never you land in your own because
sometimes you're perfect trouble. You are Nigeria. They say our close border now. You know the idea flight and so I even any cost involved than say obefa from the chop and the moment. It is bra only about the national town now. It's to within Nigeria and company because this year Christmas and at the beginning so you're going out to the yes it's much. It's your best Roman penny say Sena won't be able to into my
Yema ya for in the year car. Just a young man do what every nobody and free her and also. Nancy and Kotogu. Or so therefore, primary canteen, the great Toma and night. It's yes, another, but that it will be a mile. A mile and Thomas Home, the school tag, your name of the Bria French. Yes, not that woman will be about who really touch me.
Also for Shamani Bohon and Sam Sunian for Kojo upon Chroma, HS, and some of our Akosua, a Ghana, ready for Nigeria for no Abania Brepa, so we was said the Bayer, as you gave it to me, Akosua.
The agitations have essentially hovered around the enforcement of some of Ghana's laws generally, not limited to Nigerians, but generally in terms of trade, etc. These matters are matters that are traditionally dealt with at the diplomatic level. Unfortunately, as you observed, our Nigerian colleagues escalated it with a statement in the mass media. Ghana has elected to do two things. I just want to read you a paragraph of our statement we issued yesterday. We remain committed to the maintenance of warm relations with all sister nations, particularly for well-known historical reasons, with the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and Ghana is proceeding to engage the federal government of Nigeria with a view to resolving comprehensively and exhaustively any matters that have the potential to sour relations between the two countries. And those engagements have started. But at the same time, we believe it is important to set the record straight on some of the accusations, and that's why we've provided a full detail of the accusations that are made against Ghana and our responses therein. And we are optimistic that the diplomatic conversations would ensure that the facts are laid bare and that the cordial relationship between Ghana and Nigeria continues. Government has also been quite clear that there are agencies in this country that are seized with dealing with the laws of this country. So if somebody is not paying their taxes, whether he is Ghanaian or Lebanese or Pakistani or American, the Ghana Revenue Authority, as you have seen over and over again, goes in sometimes to close their shops. It is not because they are Ghanaian or Pakistani or American, but it is because they are not honoring their tax obligations.
Ejadifu a watonton fridge mu nama hodo wokuma se asafo market a wa sentiment mu no de meche coastal for no se adodo no anam moton no ebi wo na ne bre no apa ho enam na sei apro na hihye fridge mu na wo mo eton na no anam suma kuma se Metropolitan Assembly ne fire food hygiene department no o mo ne veterinary services fo aka bom akosa sa hodo ni nyina mu ama nkokɔ na mo asai na nso eton no enaka besa hanu ni akire anya akoyi ni nyina atuagu.
So be PM ewo Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly omo nkraba tabakomche department your friend food hygiene department omo ne food and drugs authority afi Ghana veterinary services omo nyina ka bom omo timetu anamo a eye anamopa ewo Kumasi asafo market ne nyina so omo susu se enuane anase enam bia isu se eye akokɔ enam boxes na ahodo beye 201 omo kyeresa asai ye beka se ye di a enye yi wanhwe ye wudi a nsusuanso de beba na enye nhwehwemu ena saa enwumakuo miensa we kaboma omotima ko piemu ewo asafo marketa omotima tu saa na mo ya omagye nyina wo mo esen youth nsem twerefo ekopiemu emra saa adwumadi anase operations ekoso ema ye ne panyi a wono ena eda eye food hygiene department that we came ano Alhaji Adams Smiler etwetwe nkomo ma wo kiremu nhwehwemu omo ye ene kwan kro mo fa so omotima piemu a mo etusa anamono
Misanka information from Adwoa say we ebeton nam e wasafo ha edukoi nam na omde koi no na enye bet my expiry date better year nam no koda say that year coastal nam dia we say edin but do hona enye din we say unless say abapro bi ana bibi sa ye ho bibi sa na a suspicion ento mo frame enra ento anopai me name officers no food hygiene team okay me mablazie and a buy to see and a medical mouth because man to box back a buy sister series. We turn them our ha and make store our ha. We say 1.1 copy 150 series. But when Ankasa, a idea muton sister series. And to say series, the mid band or Barbie and Okoto be by. Take all the buy no, Mammy where or Johnny. All of a sudden, no, to say assembly and say Mohus and Asia. Minute food and that for any veterinary. Yenina yakabum yawa ha ya hwede ekoso anti okwa na okoton nam na enya fakọ assembly ben ana food and drug board no mo hwe na ya hu said etie
ye twa nguna ya je enkratu ye ba ye beto akase no so